Maria, Rose, Maria Lydia, Maria Goretti, Sabina, Jesus, Pablo, Aurora, Maria Lydia, Andrea, Andreana. I hope all of you are doing well. If I didn't mention anybody's name, please accept my greetings. I hope last night was great. Well, welcome to our lesson of today. We are looking at science, and the topic is the earth, the sun, and the moon. The earth, the sun, and the moon. But before we look at the earth, the sun, and the moon, it is good for us to look at what we did in our previous lesson in science. In our previous lesson in science, we're looking at shadows. We're looking at shadows. And we said a shadow is the image or picture that is formed when an object stops light from passing through it. When an object stops light from passing through it. Prior to that particular lesson, we saw different types of objects. We saw transparent objects, objects that light can pass through. Translucent object that can allow some amount of light to pass through. And opaque object that do not allow light to pass through. And looking at the color of image that is formed as a shadow, it depends on the type of object that stops light. So we said that opaque objects, you have a dark color, black color of an image. When an opaque object stops light from passing through it, we have a dark color of image. When a translucent object stops light from passing through it, the image that is formed, or the shadow, is gray in color. We also did mention that the type of shadow, the length, the height of shadow depends on the hour of the day. By so doing, we explained that from 12, our shadows are shorter. But from 12 upwards, our shadows become longer. I'm talking of 12 p.m. Our shadows become longer. So, today, we are going to look at a new topic in science. Our new topic is on the earth, the sun, and the moon. Before we look at the earth, the sun, and the moon, it is important for us to understand the meaning of certain words that we come across in this topic. Words such as a spacecraft. What is a spacecraft? What is a spacecraft? A spacecraft is simply a vehicle that is used for traveling in outer space. It is simply a vehicle that is used for traveling in outer space. That is the first word we should understand and we should keep on our minds. The second word is planet. What is a planet? What is a planet? A planet is a celestial body. When we talk of celestial, we mean heavenly. A heavenly body, a body that is heavenly. A heavenly body that moves around the sun or other stars. A planet is a heavenly body that moves around the sun or other stars. The next word we shall be looking at is a star. What is a star? What is a star? A star is any one of those celestial bodies. Any one of those celestial bodies or heavenly bodies that appears as a little point of light. That appears as a little point of light at night. Any one of the celestial bodies, especially the one that appears at a little point of light at night, is called a star. The next word we'll be looking at is orbit. What is orbit? Orbit is a curved path. It is a curved path through which a satellite or a planet moves in outer space. It is a curved path through which a satellite or a planet moves in outer space. Somebody will be asking the question, what is a satellite? A satellite is simply a heavenly body that moves around another body. A satellite is simply a heavenly body, a celestial body that moves around another celestial body. It's called a satellite. We'll look at the next word, which is astronaut. An astronaut is a person that is trained to make flights in the outer space. So somebody who learns, who is being trained to make flights in outer space is known as an astronaut. Someone who is being trained to make flights into outer space is known as an astronaut. So we will be looking at one of those astronauts. His name is Galileo. Galileo was an astronaut. And he decided to explore one of our planets. And the particular planet he wanted to study, to learn about, was Jupiter. So he decided to embark on a journey to Jupiter. He took what? You normally know that we use spacecraft to travel into outer space. So on his spacecraft, he had a camera on his spacecraft. And this camera captured a picture. The camera captured a picture of the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon. The camera captured a picture of the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon. So I was saying that Galileo, an astronaut, decided to explore Jupiter. He took his spacecraft. On his spacecraft, he had a camera. And the camera took a picture of the Moon, the Earth, and the Sun. The Moon, the Earth, and the Sun. But we are looking at the picture now. Look, this is the Moon here. This is the Earth here. From the picture, it shows that the Moon is smaller than the Earth. The Moon is smaller than the Earth. The picture also shows that there is a black empty space between the Moon and the Earth. There is a black empty space between the Moon and the Earth. And further explanations from his picture show that the Moon moves round the Earth while the Earth moves round the Sun. The Moon moves round the Earth while the Earth moves round the Sun. And from his picture, he also explained that the Moon, the Sun gives light to the Moon and to the Earth on different paths. He also explained from the picture that the Earth is a planet and it reflects light from the Sun. The Earth is a planet and it reflects light from the Sun. Planets reflect light, and the Sun is a star. The Sun is a star because it produces light. From his picture, Galileo also explained to us that the Moon does not produce its own light. The Moon does not produce its own light. The Moon only reflects light from the Sun. The Moon does not produce its own light. It only reflects light from the Sun. And since we know that stars produce light, planets reflect light, the Moon does not produce light. So the Moon is not a star. The Moon is not a star. The Sun produces light, so the Sun is a star. The Sun is a star, like all other stars that appear as little dots of light at night. So, in this lesson, we have studied the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon. The Earth, the Sun, and the Moon. Before we started looking at the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon, we started by defining some of the words, the terms that are important when looking at space. And one of those words is spacecraft. And we said that a spacecraft is a vehicle that is used to travel into outer space. A spacecraft is a vehicle that is used to travel into outer space. A spacecraft is a vehicle that is used to travel into outer space. So if a spacecraft is a vehicle that is used to travel into outer space, what do astronauts use? Astronauts therefore use spacecraft to travel into outer space. Looking at the second word, planet. We know our Earth is a planet, and it is the only planet on which life is possible. The only planet where you can find people living. Yeah, because you know why. We have the right temperature and the right amount of oxygen that permits life for us. So a planet is a celestial body. What is a celestial body? A celestial body, celestial means heavenly, a heavenly body, a heavenly body that moves around the sun and the other stars. It spins around the sun and the other stars that are found in space. And then we also saw another word, orbit, and we said that an orbit is a curved path through which a planet or a satellite moves in outer space. And then we saw another word, astronaut, and we explained that an astronaut is one who is trained to make flights into outer space. And of course, we saw an example of an astronaut, Galileo. And we said Galileo decided to travel into outer space. And his focus was on one of the planets, this planet Jupiter. And on his way, he used a spacecraft to travel into outer space. And this spacecraft had a camera on it. And his camera captured a picture of the Earth and the Moon. Picture of the Earth and the Moon. And that from that picture, we have come to study and understand that the Moon is smaller, much smaller than the Earth. The Moon is much smaller than the Earth. And that between the Moon and the Earth, there are dark, black, empty spaces. Black, empty spaces. That between the Moon and the Earth, there are black, empty spaces. And that the Earth moves around the Sun, while the Moon moves around the Earth. Because the Moon moves around the Earth, the Moon is a satellite to the Earth. What is a satellite? A satellite is a heavenly body, a celestial body that moves around another celestial body. So the Moon is a satellite to the Earth, while the Earth is a satellite to the Sun, because the Earth spins around the Sun. And the movement of the Earth around the Sun is called the rotation of the Earth. That is exactly what causes day and night. Because the Earth is spinning, we have day and night, 24 hours every day, day and night. So from his picture to further explanations with that, the Moon is not a star. The Moon does not produce light. The Moon only gets light from the Sun. The Moon gets light from the Sun. And that the Earth also gets its light from the Sun. The Earth is a planet. It doesn't produce light. It only reflects light. From the same picture, we also studied that the Earth gets light from the Sun. One part of the Earth gets sunlight at a particular time, while the other part of the Earth is in darkness. That is why, as we are in Equatorial Guinea today, if you go to other parts of the world, in other continents, or other countries, you will discover that they are still at night, because one part of the world is not having sunshine. That part will be at night. That part will be at night. I know there are many questions you would like to ask, because I know people was asking questions. Maria Lydia, Samuela, I know you guys are always curious. Jesus, Pablo, I mean, the whole class is always very curious, especially when you come to things, practical lessons like this. So I'm so ready to get your questions, and I'm sure I'll be able to give you the right answers, and that you open your books on page 82 of your Cambridge Science book. You know, this one is Oxford, but you have the Cambridge, page 82 of Cambridge. You open your book, and then on page 82, you see this topic, and you read it, find questions, ask me questions. I'll be ready to answer your questions. Guys, I miss you so much. I wish you were here so that we could crack some jokes and feel relaxed the way we used to be after every lesson. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. I'll be waiting for your questions. I'll leave some notes at the security post. I've also snapped some notes to send to you. So please do endeavor to pick your notes and the exercises that will follow. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.